Is it visible? Screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, hope you understood the statement, right? Clausius statement and the Kelvin Planck statement. You understood, right? Hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this one, I think equivalence of Clausius statement to Kelvin statement. Okay, that is violation of one statement violates the other, right? That is called equivalence. Okay. Before that, first highlight what is Clausius statement and Kelvin Planck statement. Okay. So that already you know in heat engine, two things are required. One is the source operating at higher temperature, and one is the sink at lower temperature. In the absence of any one of the things, okay, then the heat engine will not work. Okay. According to the definition, the efficiency of heat engine is given by the net work output divided by heat supplied. Okay, suppose if heat the rejected is not there, in that case, what we get the 100% efficiency. So 100% efficiency is not possible, hence violate the Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, so that you remember Kelvin Planck statement, the mainly deals with the existence of source and sink. Okay, so if any one of is not there, okay, either source or sink, then in that case heat engine will not work, so that will not get, and according to that will not get 100% efficiency. That is a Kelvin Planck statement. Clausius statement means, so the heat is a form of energy, and heat always flow from higher temperature gradient to lower temperature gradient. Okay? And the reverse, that is not possible. That is, heat never flow from lower temperature gradient to higher temperature gradient. Okay, in case of a refrigerator and pump, okay, so there the heat always flows from the lower temperature gradient, higher temperature gradient. You can see the diagram. Okay, heat pump. So that in order to supply the heat from lower temperature, that is from sink to source, we have to supply the external work. Okay, so external work is supplied, then only it is possible. That is the Clausius statement. You remember, Kelvin Planck statement mainly deals with the heat engine, and the Clausius statement mainly deals with the heat pump. Okay, and already studied perpetual motion machine of second kind, means here in perpetual motion machine of second kind there is no sink at all. Okay, Q2 is not there, so we get the 100% efficiency. Such sort of machine is not possible in nature, so it is a virtual machine or imaginary machine. Okay, it is not possible. Okay, that is the concept of this one. Now I'll explain the equivalence of two statements. That is, uh, both statements are equal in nature. Uh, you see the diagram? Okay. So first there are two things. First one is the violation of Kelvin Planck statement violates the Clausius statement. Okay. Both statements are equal. On the other hand, the Clausius statement violates the Kelvin Planck statement. Okay. So before that, try to understand this diagram. Okay. Understanding of the diagram is most important. Okay. First, I am explaining uh, the violation of one statement over the other. Okay. Okay. You see this diagram. The violation of Kelvin Planck statement leads to violation of Clausius statement. Okay. For that one, so you have to draw the heat engine diagram. Operates between the two temperature sources. One is the high temperature source, and another one is the low temperature source. And in the same diagram, you have to show the heat pump. Okay. So operating between high temperature source and low temperature source. That is nothing but sink. Okay. You see the heat supplied. Q1 is the heat supplied to the engine, and here starting we are assuming it as Q2 is 0. Okay. So that's why it is highlighted. So whatever the net amount of the work done is exactly equals to the heat supplied to the engine. Okay, you see the second diagram, and you have to put entire thing as a system. Okay, Q1. Okay, and you have to reverse the diagram. Q2 is the heat taken from the sink to heat pump, and then it is supplied to the high temperature source operating at temperature T1. Okay, so first we are going to prove violation of Kelvin Planck statement violates Clausius statement. For that purpose, you have to take Q2 as 0, assuming that there is no Q2 at all. And the net work done equals to Q1 minus Q2. Anyhow, Q2 is 0. So net work done is exactly equals to the heat supplied. Okay. So next we have to write the efficiency formula. Efficiency is the net work done divided by heat supplied. That is Q1 divided by Q1. You get 1. So 100% efficiency. Hence it violates the Kelvin Planck statement. Now we have to prove it violates Clausius statement also. Okay. How we are going to prove Clausius statement? Now the same amount of the work done is supplied to the heat pump. Okay, as we know that without supply of the work, the heat pump will not work. Q2 is the heat taken from the sink at T2, and the Q1 is the heat supplied to the source. Okay. Now, in that case, what we are going to do, because you see the arrow mark, okay, it is from bottom to top in case of a heat pump, and it is from top to bottom in case of heat engine. Okay, so here now I think hope you understood this violation of Kelvin Planck statement. What you can show that, so here it violates the Kelvin Planck statement. You have to show Q2 as 0. This is the most important thing. Okay, if Q2 is there, then there is no violation at all. You have to show Q2 as 0 because the heat rejection is 0. Okay, so violates the Kelvin Planck statement. Then we have to prove it violates the Clausius statement also. How we are going to prove? Okay, now next here Q1 is there. Okay, and Q1 is the same quantity of heat is supplied to the Q1. What I am going to do? Just I am going to remove this high temperature reservoir. Okay, so that the same, because Q1 is there, the same Q1 is we are going to take from the T1. Okay, so we are going to eliminate this high temperature reservoir. So whenever high, we are going to remove the high temperature reservoir, same quantity of the heat is flowing. Just imagine that there is no heat temperature reservoir is not there. Okay, you see, like this you have to show. You have to remove that high temperature reservoir. The same quantity of Q1 you have to supply to the heat pump. Okay, so that directly Q1 is there. Okay, once again it violates because whenever we are going to take, we need to have the two sinks. One is the source and one is the sink. Okay, so that in the absence of any one of the source, so that the heat engine will not work. Okay, so it violates the Kelvin Planck statement. The same quantity of heat. Okay, you see Q1. Okay, here the heat pump is extracting the heat from the sink and rejecting the heat to the. Now you see the diagram. Okay, whatever it is, put it in the dotted line so that now the heat engine and heat pump together constitute a cycle. Okay, and then producing the net effect of transferring the heat from low temperature reservoir to high temperature reservoir and thus violating the Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, remember that. Okay, here first we are going to prove the Kelvin Planck statement violation. Next we are going to prove the heat pump. Okay. How we are going to prove? If after this one finishing of this Kelvin Planck statement, you have to go for the Clausius statement. Okay, here the heat engine and heat pump together constitute a cycle. Okay, and transferring the heat from the low temperature reservoir to high temperature reservoir. Okay, so according to the law, the transfer of the heat from low temperature reservoir to high temperature is not possible. Hence, it violates the Clausius statement. Hence, the Kelvin Planck statement violation leads to the violation of Clausius statement. Okay, understood this one? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Ah, okay. So whenever they ask me here, sometimes they may ask, prove that violation of Kelvin Planck statement violates Clausius statement, or sometimes they ask, prove that the Kelvin Planck statement and Clausius statements are equivalent in nature. Okay. And so the first proof is the violation of Kelvin Planck statement violates the Clausius statement. For that purpose, you see the diagram. So you have to draw the diagram correctly. So that first you have to show the heat engine and you have to show W equals to Q1 and Q2 equals to 0. And the same W, that is Q1, is supplied to the heat pump. Okay. Here, the heat pump which extracts the heat from the low temperature reservoir and supplies to the high temperature reservoir. Means heat transfer takes place from lower temperature to higher temperature. So it is not possible in nature. Hence, it violates the Clausius statement. Okay, you see, you should be very careful in arrow mark. You see, you have to show in forward direction Q1 and Q2 for the heat engine. You have to show reverse direction for heat pump. Okay, and you have to put both the things in a cyclic nature. Okay, this is most important. This is the first diagram. So then second one, you have to prove the violation of Clausius statement violates the Kelvin Planck statement. Okay. For that purpose, first you have to write heat pump. As I said, Clausius statement mainly related to heat pump and Kelvin Planck statement mainly related to heat engine. Okay. For that purpose, same thing here. First you have to show the heat pump. Next you have to show the heat engine. And you see the arrow mark because in heat pump the heat transfer takes place from sink to source. You have to show it as Q2 and it has Q1. And it's the high temperature reservoir at T1, is the low temperature reservoir at T2. And then you have to show Q1 in the forward direction for heat engine. And net work done, you have to show like this, W equals to Q1 minus Q2. Okay. Now, first, in order to violation of heat pump, what you are going to do? Okay, there is no net work done. Okay, in case of heat pump, that is a violation of the Clausius. Don't show any work on the heat pump. If there is no work done at all, it violates the Clausius statement. You see the highlight point. You see no work you have to show. No work means violates the Clausius statement. Okay. So that here the transfer of the heat takes place from sinks to source. There is no work done at all. Without work done, the heat transfer never takes place from lower temperature to higher temperature, violates the Clausius statement. Now we have to prove the violation of Kelvin Planck statement. Okay. So what we are going to do in that case, okay. Here, Q1 is the rejection of the heat from heat pump to source at temperature T1. And the same quantity of heat you see, Q1 is supplied to the heat engine. Okay. In that case, we are going to eliminate this high temperature reservoir. You see the diagram. Okay. So we are going to eliminate the high temperature reservoir. Directly, whatever the quantity of the heat taken from the heat pump is supplied to the heat engine. And then without the presence of high temperature reservoir. And then this is the quantity of heat supplied to the heat engine. And then producing the net work done Q1 minus Q2. And remaining heat Q2 is rejected to the low temperature reservoir, then it violates the Kelvin-Planck statement. Can you tell how it violates the Kelvin-Planck statement? Anybody?
The Kelvin-Planck statement states that heat
Hmm.
supply should be between two sources, sink and source.
Correct.
And if we remove the high temperature reservoir, there is no source, only
Ah,
sink is there, so it will violate the Kelvin-Planck statement.
good. Like that, you have to analyze. So here, so what quantity of heat Q1 is rejected from the heat pump is directly taken into the heat engine. Okay, according to the Kelvin Planck statement, in order to work the heat engine, we should have minimum two temperature sources. One is the source at higher temperature, and one is the sink at lower temperature. Okay, here in the absence of the source, it will not work. Violates the Kelvin Planck statement, and we are calling it as PMM2. Hence, violates the Kelvin Planck statement. Hence, both statements are equivalent in nature. The first case, the violation of Kelvin-Planck statement violates the Clausius statement. Okay, so here I think you have not understood properly how it violates the Clausius statement, and I hope you understood this Kelvin-Planck statement. So the violation of the Clausius statement means you have to consider the heat engine and heat pump as a cycle. Okay, that's why you have to show both the things in the dotted line. You have to enclose the heat engine and the heat pump by a line. Okay, by line. This is considered a system, and we are considering both the things as a cyclic process. So heat pump, so that it takes the heat from Q2 and supplies the heat to the source, and without work done, because the entire things we are considering as cycle means without work done. Okay, so that suppose you are taking separately, in that case is good. Okay, but we are considering entire thing as a cycle. In a cyclic process, okay, the heat transfer takes place from the low temperature to high temperature. Hence, it violates the Clausius statement. So, like that, you have to draw two diagrams. You have to show the diagram is most important. Okay, so you have to show properly diagrams and the arrow mark. Okay, suppose if you make something mistake in the arrow mark, no, you lose the mark. Okay, mainly the arrow mark, and then notation is most important. You have to show heat pump, heat engine, Q1 and Q2. Suppose if you show the heat pump in a reverse direction, wrong. Okay, I'm telling you, always you have to take from bottom to top, and for heat engine, always you have to take from top to bottom. Okay. Hope you any concept you are not understood in the second law of thermodynamics or entropy, so that I can explain once again. Hmm? Any doubts? Any doubts? Any concepts you are not understood in second law of thermodynamics or entropy? Because the most important chapter. Okay. So try to understand and this one. Okay. Very simple. Okay, but analyzation is important. Understood this one? Shall I proceed? Shall I go to pure substance now? Okay. Okay, I'll discuss some more important problems on entropy. Okay, so some sorts of problems are not done. Okay, I'll explain one more important problem. Okay. Okay, this screen is visible, guys. Okay. Is it visible? Anyone of you can you tell, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this what problem I am explaining you is the most important problem. Once again, it is related to your entropy only. Okay. An iron cube of at a temperature of 400 degrees Celsius is dipped into an insulated bath containing 10 kg of water at 25 degrees Celsius. Okay. This kind of problem asked in a VTU exam. That's why I am doing this problem particularly. Okay. The most important problem. Okay. An iron cube at a temperature of 400 degrees Celsius is dipped into an insulated bath containing 10 kilogram of water at 25 degrees Celsius. The water finally reaches to a temperature of 50 degrees Celsius, means at steady state. Okay, when the two bodies are comes in contact with each other, they will come to thermal equilibrium state. Okay, here after some time, the water reaches a temperature of 50 degrees Celsius at steady state. Given that specific heat of water is 4186 joules per kg Kelvin, find the entropy change for the iron cube and water. If is the process reversible, and if so, why? Okay. So first you have to write the given data. The temperature of iron cube, you call it as T1, Ti 400 degrees Celsius. It is nothing but 673 Kelvin. Okay. Temperature of water is 25 degrees Celsius, it is 298 Kelvin. Okay, temperature of water and cube after equilibrium means starting we are having the iron cube temperature as 673 Kelvin and water temperature as 298 Kelvin. When the iron cube dipped into the container, it reaches 50 degrees Celsius. That is the equilibrium temperature. That is 323 Kelvin. Okay, and specific heat of water is 4186. Under equilibrium condition, you have to write this one. Whatever the heat lost by iron cube is heat gained by the water, because the iron cube loses the heat and the water gains the heat. So you have to write this equation. Heat lost by the iron cube equals to heat gained by the water. So MCP delta T iron equals to MCP delta T for the water. So this is the whatever the amount of the heat transferred. Okay, you have to remember this equation. Already studied in entropy change. The heat transfer is given by MCP delta T. Okay, that is your enthalpy and heat loss both are same. Okay, MCP delta T iron equals to MCP delta T water. Okay, and so you have to balance for equilibrium also. So equilibrium, how we are going to balance, that is Mi CPI. So this is iron 673 minus 323, because heat lost by the iron cube means 673 minus 323, and MWCPW is 323 minus 298. Okay, so this is the equilibrium condition you have to take. Okay, so this is the change in temperature. Okay, from 673, because it comes down to 323 and it changes from 323 to 298. So you have to write this equation MICPI. For iron, there is a loss of heat. Okay, 673 minus 2 at 23, and for water it is a gain of heat. That is MWCPW into 323 minus 298. So everything is based upon this equation only. So you have to write this equation properly. So next we are going to find out the product of Mi into CPI. Mi CPI is 323 minus 298 into CPW is 4186 given in the problem, and MW is mass of the water given in the problem as 10 kg. Okay, divided by 673 into 320 minus of 323. So after solving this one, we are getting the product of Mi CPI as 2990. Okay, where Mi is the mass of iron at 673 Kelvin. Okay. Next, what they asked, they have asked to find out the entropy change or entropy change of water, entropy change of iron, and entropy at 323 Kelvin. Okay. So what are the things they asked? find out the entropy changes for iron cube and water. First, entropy change in iron at 673 Kelvin. Okay, that is 400 plus 273 Kelvin. So you have to write. So Mi Cpi Ln. Okay, 673 divided by 273. Already I derived the expression for the entropy change. Okay, you have to remember this equation. Okay. Mi Cpi Ln. This is T2 by T1. 673 final temperature divided by initial temperature. Okay. So 2990 Ln 673 divided by 270. So you'll get 2697.8 joules per kilokelvin. Okay. And entropy change for water at 298 Kelvin. Okay. So I've derived the derivation for all the process. Just you go through. So analyze where will come this one M into C into Ln T2 by T1. Okay. Next, you have to find out the entropy change of water at 298 Kelvin. Same thing. So you have to take MW CPW Ln. Final temperature is 298 divided by initial temperature. Okay. So you are getting 3667.8 joules per Kelvin. Okay. Can anyone tell me? So I took in the denominator as 273. Why? In all the things you see, entropy change of iron at 673. That is, I took as 273. You see that denominator everywhere it is 273. Why it is 273? Anyone?
Sir, it is standard temperature,
Correct.
Kelvin scale.
Correct. That is 0 degrees Celsius or 273 Kelvin. So entropy change, it is from 273 Kelvin to 673 Kelvin. For that purpose, you have to take Mi Cpi into Ln 673 divided by 273. We are getting 2697.8. Similarly, for water, it is 25 degrees Celsius given in the problem. So 25 degrees Celsius is there. Okay, temperature of water. So you have to take temperature of the water as 298, and this is the entropy change from 0 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. That's why in the numerator you have to take 298, in the denominator you have to take 273. So you get 3667.8 joules per Kelvin. Okay. Next, similarly, the entropy change at 323 Kelvin. 323 Kelvin means our equilibrium temperature. When the iron cube is dipped in the container, so it reaches the temperature of 50. And meantime, the water also gains temperature of 50 degrees Celsius. Okay. So you have to find out separately. Okay. Next, entropy change of iron at 323 Kelvin is 323 divided by one same thing you have to take. Okay. 273. Okay. Next, the entropy change of water at 323 Kelvin is 10 into 4186. Okay, because here the water given, the mass of water is given as 10 kg. That's why you have to multiply by 10. Okay, and this is the Cp of water into Ln 323 divided by 273. Okay. Now you have to find out 4 values separately. One is at initial temperature and one is at equilibrium temperature for water and also for iron cube. Okay. Next, you have to find out entropy change in the iron. Okay. Whatever value we got, that is 2697. So you have to find out whatever value at equilibrium temperature is 502.8 minus of 2697.8. You are getting minus 2195. So negative sign indicates that there will be a change in a decrease in the entropy, because when entropy decreases, means the iron body loses its heat, hence the entropy decreases. So similarly, you have to find out the change in entropy of water. Okay, so whatever the entropy of water at 298 is 3667 minus of 7040. So you are getting change in entropy of water is 7040 minus of 3667. So you'll get 3372. Okay, net change in entropy means whatever you are having, the change in entropy of water minus change in entropy of iron. So you'll get 1177.24 joules per Kelvin. Okay. So whether this process is reversible or not. Okay. So already you studied in Clausius theorem. Okay. So what is according to the Clausius theorem? And if delta S is greater than 0, it is process is reversible in nature. Okay, if it is greater than 0 or equals to 0, the process is reversible. If it is less than 0, then process is not reversible. Okay, so same kind of problem. So I solved here. Okay, so such kind of problem they'll ask. They'll change the entropy values. You have to find out. Second problem. A 30 kg ball at 427 degrees Celsius is dropped in a 150 kilogram of oil at 27 degrees Celsius. The specific heat of steel and oil is 0.5 kilojoules per kg Kelvin and 2.5 kilojoules per kg Kelvin. So find the entropy change of steel, oil, and that of system containing oil and steel. Okay, it is very similar to first problem. So we have to write first statement: heat lost by the steel equals to heat gained by the oil. Okay, MCP delta T for steel ball equals to MCP delta T for oil. So you have to remember this equation to find it. In the previous problem, the equilibrium temperature is given, but in this problem, equilibrium temperature is not given. So you have to find out that equilibrium temperature, because starting we're having the high temperature of steel ball and low temperature of the oil. When the hot steel ball dipped into the oil, so it reaches the equilibrium temperature. First, we have to find out that equilibrium temperature. Okay. MCP delta T for steel ball. Mass of the steel ball is 30 kg into 0.5 given specific heat of the steel ball into 700 minus TF. Let TF be equilibrium temperature. That is 700 means 427 plus 273 is 700. Don't take in degrees Celsius. Always you have to take the temperature in Kelvin. Remember, suppose if you are taking the value in degrees Celsius, you'll get the wrong answer. Be careful in heat engine, heat pump, whatever it is, you have to take temperature in Kelvin. Okay. Equals to 150. That is mass of oil into CP, specific heat of oil, into delta T. That is TF minus 300. Starting 700 minus TF, it is TF minus 300. TF is the equilibrium temperature and 300 is the temperature of the oil. Okay. So after solving, we are getting the TF as 315.38 Kelvin. So this is the most important. In the previous problem, it was there. In this problem, it's not there. You have to find out the equilibrium temperature. Next, you have to find out the steel change in entropy for steel ball is given by MCPLN into TF divided by T1. Okay. M mass of steel ball is 30, CP is 0.5, LN 315.38 TF. Okay, divided by T1 is 700. Okay, and entropy change for oil is MCP into Ln EF divided by Tm. Yes, temperature of oil 150 into 2.5 Ln. EF is 315.38 divided by 300. Okay. So here we are getting the entropy change for oil as 18.748. Okay, you see, one we are getting negative and one we are getting positive, because the steel ball loses heat and the oil gains the heat. And net change of entropy. Net change of entropy means you have to sum up. How we have find out the net work done in second model, like that we are going to find out the net entropy change. That is nothing but universe. System plus surroundings, that is called as universe. That is ds of steel ball plus ds of oil. So you'll get 6.789. So in this case, the net entropy change is getting positive sign, hence there will be a change, increase in the entropy. Okay. Next is the most important problem. Okay, this is like a creative question, innovative type question. Okay, so that's kind of problem they'll ask in the exam, since second law of thermodynamics as well as in the entropy. Okay, An inventor claims to have developed a heat engine. Okay, especially you'll get such kind of problem in competitive exam. Okay, so you have to concentrate on such kind of problem. Okay, an inventor claims to have developed a heat engine with a following specification. Power developed is 76 kilowatt. Fuel burned is 4.8 kilogram per hour. The heating value of fuel is 73,000 kilojoules per kg. Heating value or calorific value both are same. It is the amount of the heat liberated when 1 kilogram of fuel is burned completely at normal temperature and pressure. That is the definition of heating value or calorific value. Heating value of fuel is 73,000 kilojoules per kg. Temperature limit 980 Kelvin and 393 Kelvin. How would you evaluate his claim is valid? Who is claiming this one? So we have to prove whether claim is valid or not. Okay. We have to prove that one. Okay. So work done is given by 76 kilowatt. Work done is 76 kilowatt means you have to find out in terms of kilojoule per hour. Why are finding out kilojoule per hour means fuel burnt is given in terms of kilogram per hour. So in order to make the same units, we are going to multiply this by 3,600. We'll get 2,73,600 kilojoules per hour. Okay, and you see one more formula is there. You are going to learn IC engine in fourth semester. Heat supplied is given by mass of the fuel into calorific value of the fuel. Okay, I hope you studied this one in elements of mechanical engineering. So where the heat supplied is given by the mass into calorific value. Mass is 4.8 into calorific value 73,000. So you'll get as 350 400 kilojoules per hour. Okay. Next, the efficiency of the engine. Okay, efficiency of the engine is given by net work done divided by heat supplied. Efficiency is 273,600. We have to find out. It is what we are getting is 78%. Okay. So according to his claim, the efficiency is 78%. But the cycle efficiency of any heat engine is given by T1 minus T2 divided by T1. Okay, T1 and T2 is 980 means 427 plus 273. You get 980 minus 390. So you get 59. 0.89. Okay. Okay. Anyone, can you tell me whether his claim is valid or not? Whether his claim is correct or wrong? Anyone? According to his claim, okay, efficiency of his engine is getting 78%. According to the standard formula, the efficiency is 59.89%. Okay, can you compare and tell me whether whatever he is telling, his statement is correct or wrong? Anyone?
Sir, can you show the question once, sir?
Okay. The question. An inventor claims have developed a heat engine with the specification. He is telling like this: power developed is this much, fuel burnt is this much, heating value is calorific value is this much, temperature limits is this much. Okay, he is giving some statement. We have to prove whether his statement is wrong or right. So for that, I gave the solution.
Sir, what is the efficiency which, sir, is the coming efficiencies?
Carnot efficiency is
78%.
59.89, and according to his statement, efficiency getting 78%. And Carnot efficiency, what we are getting is 59.89%, according to standard formula.
Sir, it is wrong, sir.
How it is wrong?
Sir, because the efficiency that is 78 is greater than the Carnot efficiency.
Correct. Okay. Like that, you have to analyze. Okay. So Carnot engine we studied. That's why I gave this problem. Carnot engine is the one which gives the maximum efficiency. So compared to all engines, okay. In this case, the whatever the inventor claims, no, we're getting the efficiency as 78 percentage, and Carnot efficiency is getting as 59.89 percentage. Hence, his statement is wrong. Okay, his claim is wrong. That important thing is, okay, after doing all this calculation, you have to write the reason his claim is wrong, because the Carnot efficiency is greater than the calculated efficiency, hence his claim is wrong. Okay, like that, such kind of the problems you'll get. Whatever problems I did know, whenever the steel ball dipped in this one water or oil, such kind of problem they'll ask, okay, in the university exam. Okay. Those who have not entered USN, please enter USN in the chat box. Just I'll give brief introduction. Already studied pure substance. Okay, one more thing is that is called as two property rule. Okay, so two property rule. Three things you have to remember. One is a triple point One is a critical point and another one is two property rule. Okay, triple point is the one so where all the three phases of a pure substance coexist in equilibrium condition. Okay. On the other hand, critical point is the point where there is no distinct between gaseous phase and liquid phase. Okay, so that whatever the liquid phase is there directly converted into gaseous phase without the transfer of heat. That is the speciality of a critical point. Okay, so one more term is there, two property rule. The state of a pure substance of a given mass can be fixed by two properties provided that the system is in equilibrium condition with negligible effects of motion, electricity, magnetism, and capillarity. Okay, so already you studied the entropy. It is a property, so it is fixed by two properties. One is the temperature and one is the heat, like that. So any this one is fixed by two property, that is called as two property rule. Okay, um, it is represented by C equals to F of A comma B. Okay, so two property rule means one property is dependent upon the another two property. Okay, for example, the work done is depends upon the two property, that is pressure and volume. Okay, and on the other hand, the heat transfer is dependent on two properties like temperature and entropy, that is called as two property rule. Okay, the state of a pure substance of a given mass can be fixed by specifying two properties provided that the system is in equilibrium. Okay, so that is a two property rule. And already in pure substance, please go through what is the pure substance, the formation of steam at constant pressure, two property rule, triple point, critical point, and I explained the three diagrams, most important diagrams: PT diagram, VT diagram, and so three diagrams here to go through. And regarding the case study question, okay, I post in the Google Classroom. And innovative question mainly on the problem only. So whatever we discussed in the class in entropy, second law of thermodynamics, it's related to numerical problem only. But whatever I solved in the class, same kind only. Okay. So that is the innovative question, and case study question I post in the Google Classroom. Okay. So I'll stop the session now. And I'll post all the problems in the Google Classroom for your reference. Okay. Thank you one and all for joining. Okay, I'll stop the session now.